Lakeland Now in View with Andrea Oliver is produced in partnership with Florida Southern College and is sponsored by Bella Visage Medical and Aesthetic Rejuvenation. Thank you for supporting independent local journalism.
If there's someone who understands the art of the pivot, understands how to passionately pursue his dreams, then it's my guest today. A local son making national attention, Nathaniel Kendrick, is making all the right moves. I'm Andrea Oliver, and this is Lakeland Now in View. So Nathaniel, I am so excited to have you in this. So much has happened since we actually last spoke. And I understand that among the big things happening in your life, you've now joined the ranks of the happily married. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's exciting. So as we all know, a lot happened in between this year and last year, and right around the time my wife now, Jess, and I were planning to get married, this thing that everybody knows now and is quite familiar with, COVID. So at first, when we first heard about it, we weren't necessarily sure what would happen. I don't think anybody was sure what would actually happen. But as it got closer to the dates, unfortunately, people started canceling on us. Venues started closing down on us. And so we made a last-second decision and said, hey, unfortunately, we're going to have to reschedule. And thankfully, a year later, we were able to actually get married.
Thankfully, a year later, she was still wanting to be married.
Exactly.
And this happened a few weeks ago.
It did, 3 weeks ago.
You guys are doing wonderful.
We are.
Well, let's tackle a few things, because I know that you actually graduated from college with somewhat of a business degree, had pursued a job as an accountant, and in the middle of all of that, you were just like, this is not it. This is not it. Well, maybe before that, but we definitely knew once you were working as an accountant, you were at the place where you thought, I'm not enjoying this. This is not what I want to do. Talk us through that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the catalyst for me, as I know you're really familiar with, is when my dad passed. That was the biggest thing for me. My dad was as you know, extremely traditional with how he did things by the book, go to school, get good grades, work for 40 years and kind of go that route. And so after he passed, I kind of went through this funk where I was like, man, I don't necessarily think that's the route for me. And I was kind of already thinking that, but I already had a consistent job. And so when I left school and graduated from UCF, I said, you know what, I'm just going to kind of stick with what I know. But after about 2 months, I was like, man, I just can't do this anymore. So I ended up reaching out to one of my really good mentors, and he said, I'd love for you to come work for me. Did that for a little bit, and then finally I transitioned out, and I was out on my own. And I really in that moment, I was kind of saying to myself, man, I feel like I finally have the opportunity to do something for myself.
I have to say, because I know your dad, or knew your dad, and I would have to say that today, might not have been if you told him that when you were in college, but today, if he were to look at you, he would be so absolutely proud of all you've achieved. 2016, you started one business, then you pivot that, and you were in another business, and doing quite well for yourself. But I think the question is, because it's something that a lot of us deal with when we go to make a life-changing move, or a move that we believe would best suit us, we consider and take into consideration so many other factors that a lot of times we end up doing nothing. What would you say to someone who might be thinking along the same lines, I am stuck in a dead-end job, it's really not my passion, but I'm so used to doing this and everybody expects it, I'm just going to stay and do it?
I think you have to realize that this life on this earth is extremely short. I think that's what happened to me when a lot of times we like to avoid this thing called death, but it's very real and it happens to people every single day. And so for me, when it hit home to me, I realized, man, this life is short. And do I want to do something that I half enjoy or that I dread, or do I want to do something that I know that I'm waking up every single morning and I'm passionate about? So obviously, it is a risk. It's a risk to do that thing that you've never done before, but it's also a risk to keep doing the thing that you know and that you're comfortable with. And
but
anything,
it brings no fulfillment.
It brings no fulfillment.
Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of times, as I say, we are stifled by the aspect of going out and doing something new, is it fear of failure, or is it that we're trying so hard to please someone else?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's both. I think it's people have this idea of, man, there's so much of this social pressure of doing what's normal. And so a lot of times it's like people are like, oh, where do you work? Oh, I work for myself. Oh, okay, interesting. And so that pressure.
And you've gotten that, haven't you?
I've gotten that a lot of times, and I think that's that social pressure. But then also stacked on top of that social pressure is, man, if I don't make this work, I'm going to be like a laughing stock, and people are just going to point their fingers and say, "Oh man, I thought you were going to do something, but you didn't. Now you're back here." And I think that's a lot of the things that kind of
Has that ever concerned you? Because as I said, since about 2016, what are you on your third project right now? The thing what has been interesting in your case is they've all been successful. So nobody's going to look now and go, nah, 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 nah. You know what I mean? Because you've been successful, but it has been 3 separate projects in 3 years. Is that what we're beginning to expect from you, or are you saying this is just the model that works for me?
I think throughout I was finding myself. I was finding out what I was good at, what I wasn't good at. So the first business was service-based. The second business was product-based, and really getting a feel for and understanding sales, understanding marketing, understanding branding, understanding how to brand yourself, understanding that when you're in business for yourself, it takes about 5 years for to establish yourself and for people to know you as that person with a specific skill set. And so I kind of took my knowledge from those 2 businesses and funneled it into what is it that I truly want to work on? What is it that I truly want to put my time and energy towards? And right now, truthfully, one of the businesses that I'm really focused on is Mike and Mike's. It's a vegan cupcake business, and it's a product based. And so I'm putting my full attention towards that, and I'm focused on really driving that to be successful. So
Nathaniel Kendrick is our guest today, and Nathaniel is a local entrepreneur who's making great waves, being successful, doing a number of business. The recent one, as you mentioned, harkens to a passion that I know you've had for quite some time, and it's the food passion. So how important is it that as you pursue those goals and dreams, that the passion for what you do is ensconced in that?
I think it's vitally important, because if you're not passionate about what you do, why would you even do it? Again, that's the biggest caveat to all of this is, I'm not saying go quit your job. If you're passionate about what you do, there's people that are passionate inside of their jobs, but if you're not passionate about what you're doing, then you need to make a really quick decision and say, what is it that I am passionate about? And it's fascinating that you said that, because I never thought in a million years that I'd be selling vegan cupcakes. But as you knew,
and why vegan? Why vegan?
Well, it's an up and coming trend, and it's really popular, and people are being more and more health conscious. People are watching what they eat, and it's huge.
Yes.
And it's important to.
Well, let me ask you this. What motivates you? Is it just the passion, or is it passion combined with where the need is currently?
That's a good question. I think it's both. It's both. I've always been fascinated. So every single business that I've been a part of, I've always been passionate about focusing on trends, or what I call a white space of meeting a need where there isn't one being met. And so the businesses that I started trending towards or leaning towards were businesses that I felt were hyper focused on meeting a need that wasn't being met. And then when I was approached by this business, one, I looked at the team and I said, man, these guys are going to do whatever it takes.
Yes.
So I'm willing to spend a lot of time with them. And 2, it was a product that tasted good. And 3, it was in a market that was growing at a rapid rate, but the demand of being able to meet that, or the supply wasn't there. So the demand was there, but the products to meet the supply wasn't there. And so that made me really passionate.
How do you put both of that together? How do you go, we have a great product, a great team. How do we make it cohesive, or in such a way that this is going to spell bling bling, dollars?
Yeah. It's a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of work. It's putting the right structure in place. It's creating a strong business plan. It's creating a strong team. And one of the key things I'll say too is, it's not just, oh, we're gonna go in the vegan cupcake business. It's there's a person that's on the team that's been in the industry for 20 plus years that understands it, right? And because of that, we put her in that position. I've been I had a finance degree, I understand numbers, I have all this experience of understanding how to develop relationships with investors or develop relationships with whoever it may need to be and open up those doors, and I'm leveraging that skill set with that business. There's someone with branding, there's someone that with sales, and so putting people in specific skill sets, and then from there, saying things like, hey, we need a board, right, to keep us accountable. So those small things lead up to things that help you scale and grow, and you're just extremely efficient that way.
Tell us about your involvement with Catapult.
Yeah, for sure. So I started at Catapult, I want to say, I first heard about Catapult when I first graduated from UCF. So UCF had very similar concepts to Catapult, but not as quite as concise, I would say. But anyways, when I moved back, I was debating on whether or not I was going to stay in Lakeland or go back to Orlando. And I heard about this new space through a friend. He's like, yeah, there's like this startup space where startups can go and launch. And I said, really, in Lakeland? Are you sure about that? And sure enough, he was right. And that's when I first heard about it. And so I was just kind of going around and introducing myself and rubbing shoulders with some local entrepreneurs. And then from there, I believe in either late 2018 or early 2019 is when I officially joined. And it's a great space. It's a great space of local entrepreneurs that are all driven and focused towards kind of like a common goal, and they really are trying to be successful in whatever industry that they're a part of. And it's cool because a lot of people, when they're first starting, entrepreneurship can be quite a lonely journey, and it's awesome to have other entrepreneurs that aren't even in your industry that you can talk to and say, hey man, I'm going through this same problems that you're going through. So it's huge.
How can we do this?
Yeah.
So as we mentioned earlier in our conversation, you recently got married. And so the roles, are going to be changed slightly, because now here comes wife, and possibly in a few more years, kids.
Yeah.
And so how do you manage well the family sphere? One now has become two. How do you manage that sphere and still be a very productive, a very on the go, on the move businessman?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's constant communication with Jess, always letting her know what I'm doing, what I'm working on, what my schedule looks like. And then I tell people all the time, like there's the people that are close to us, so this, but it doesn't matter. We have a specific day that is just for us.
I like that.
And nothing else. We don't talk about business, we talk about what we want to do with our future and spending time with each other, or watch a movie, or go to Orlando and spend time with each other. I think that's important. And of course, we're still learning, right? Because we're still new to this game. But we understand that the biggest thing that we've seen that works for us, with all the things and all the projects that I'm in and the stuff that she's involved in, is communication.
Well, we say this all the time, and if there's someone that this fits, it would certainly be you. The sky's the limit. Might we ask what's next?
Yeah, I'm just diving deeper into the vegan cupcake business and really pushing that. And my wife has a business as well, and really helping her cultivate and build that as well. And that's the thing I'm really focused on. I'm focused on businesses that are really creating something unique, and they're just not in it just to make a whole bunch of money, but it's actually solving a real problem as well.
We're so impressed with you. A lot of times in our culture, there has been this tendency to think that by the time you get to where you're owning your own business, you are a middle-aged person that's been through several people's companies before you get to your own. And so it's very encouraging to see a young man, and especially a young man of color, doing this. What is your word to young people, and in particular young people in this present society, about venturing out and launching out on their own?
Yeah, I think don't let anything hold you back. I think it's important to just have a vision and be so hyper-focused on that vision that you're not going to let anything stop you. I think the biggest thing for me is, because my dad passed away and I was so young, it was such a painful experience to me. I'm like, this is the lowest, I feel like this is the lowest low that I could ever get. So I don't care what it is, nothing's gonna stop me. And so that's kind of how the mindset that I've always really focused on. So no matter who it is, a decision maker or whatever, I don't let that stop me. And if there's an obstacle and not a lot of people are like, oh man, there's this brick wall, I can't get past it. It's like, no, it's an obstacle. You can get past an obstacle. I'll figure it out.
Figure it out.
And so that's the biggest thing for me is like, if you're trying to start your own business and you're afraid of, oh man, it's because of what I look like, or is it because, my age or my ethnicity or whatever, it's like, no, man, like don't let this stop you. We're in a society where at the end of the day, the market is going to decide whether or not your product or service is good. Let the market decide. And if the market thinks it's good, it'll hit.
It'll hit.
Yeah.
Nathaniel Kendrick, you are a big hit, and we just are so honored to have you come sit on our couch and come chat with us for a little bit. And sky's the limits, man.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us. You've been listening to Lakeland Now in View. I am Andrea Oliver. We'll talk again next time.
Thank you for supporting independent local journalism.